I'm hearing more and more lately when people titrate up in their dose with either Zepbound or Mounjaro, they're actually starting to gain weight. So, if that's you, today I'm going to give you 5 simple steps which you can focus on to start losing weight again. Let's get those scales moving in the right direction with some simple swaps. If we haven't met yet, my name's Gina. I am a qualified nutritionist for 20 years now, and I became a nutritionist to lose 90 pounds 22 years ago. So I understand intimately the battle with weight. All right, let's dive in. So the first thing is your hormones. When you titrate up, nausea kills your appetite completely, right? You could drop half your normal calories, and what happens is the body reads a severe calorie restriction as a famine signal. Then your body releases cortisol, and cortisol is a fat storage hormone, and it stores fat, particularly around the belly. So let's say you're eating almost nothing, which is what I hear all the time. I'm barely eating a thing and yet I'm gaining weight. How is this even possible? So this is how it's possible. You're eating barely nothing, but you're storing everything. And because cortisol will always have us craving more carbohydrate foods because it's looking for energy, right? It's a stress hormone. It's looking for quick, fast energy, which comes from carbohydrates. So when you do eat something, you're likely being driven from your hormonal state to eat something that is high in carbohydrates. And this makes sense because your body is screaming out for fuel. So what actually happens is now you have 2 fat storage hormones surging inside your body, cortisol and insulin, because the insulin is being raised from the carbohydrates. So in this situation, it wouldn't matter how low your calories are, you are going to store them. Okay, number 2 is this. When solid food is unbearable, we tend to go for liquid meals, right? Because we all know we need to eat something. So people make smoothies or protein shakes. They have maybe a juice or even a sports drink, hoping to also get electrolytes as well. But if you're not really careful about the type of liquid food you're having, it can destroy your weight loss efforts. It's actually tricky on the brain because we think to ourselves, well, all I had today was a big smoothie. So that can't make me fat, right? Why would I gain weight from that? But here's the thing. A healthy smoothie can actually have 60 or 80 grams of sugar in it just by itself. And because you're barely eating anything, you're probably also not really taking notice or tracking what's actually going into your body. These sorts of liquids will spike insulin immediately and again put you in fat storing mode. So here's the other thing. I'm not a massive fan of tracking anything, but I am very, very aware of the macronutrients going into my body because that is far more important than the calories alone. Yes, calories matter, but without hormones, the body actually can't use those calories. In other words, if you don't have the right hormones to store calories, you can't store them. So let that sink in for a minute, and I'm going to say it again in another way so that you understand. Without insulin and cortisol running through your veins, calories cannot be used. And that is why macronutrients are a much better focus for your weight loss journey than calories alone. Because I see it all the time online. People giving out advice to count calories, cut your calories. If you're not losing, you need to track calories, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the full picture. And it's actually a waste of time. If you're having 1,000 calories and every one of those calories is coming from carbohydrates, you're still not going to lose weight and you're going to be so confused and you're going to be wondering why. So you need to focus more on macronutrients than on calories. Okay, so the third one is a phase after the nausea from titrating up. So your nausea phase after titrating up could last anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks for most people, right? When your appetite finally comes back, it comes back with a vengeance. Some people say that they have a bigger appetite than they had before even starting the medication. This is actually our body defending itself because our brain only sees food restriction and our body is now compensating. People aren't warned about this and they feel really great. They think, yes, I'm through the hard part. There's no more nausea. I feel good. But because of everything going on within your body, you may be unconsciously overeating in the aftermath of the nausea. And that would be a very unconscious thing because your body is now trying to catch up. You're trying to refuel. And then if you combine this with a slower metabolism, which we'll talk about in a minute, high-carb foods with lots of insulin and cortisol running through your veins, and the scale will start moving up instead of down. So number 4 is addressing hormonal issues. So here's the thing none of us want to hear, including myself, right? If we have weight issues, we have an insulin resistance issue. And that means our insulin is higher than it should be. And the most frustrating thing is our doctors don't test for insulin. It's not a standard blood test. They test for blood glucose, but that's not the full story because you could still have very high insulin levels whilst having normal blood glucose levels, right? So the GLP-1 meds can't actually correct that condition by themselves. We actually have to make some changes to correct our hormones. By the way, another term for insulin resistance is metabolic syndrome, and it involves every single cell in our body, and it actually creates many other chronic illnesses as we age. So it's definitely worth taking notice of. So here's the thing. If you're taking a GLP-1, hoping that it will lose the weight for you, and you decide not to change your diet at all while you're taking the GLP-1, the underlying cause of the weight gain will never actually be resolved. And that means it will take you much longer to lose the weight in the first place, and it'll also be almost impossible to keep the weight off once it's gone. This is one of those things I see often because people don't understand that the meds can't do all the work for them. But I tell you what, they do make it so much easier to change what we thought was so hard about changing our lifestyle before. So I would suggest take the time now, take advantage of this medication and start making small changes whilst the GLP-1 is working for you. If you'd like to learn how to reset your metabolism and mindset for lasting weight loss, check out my private program. I will link it below for you so you can check that out later. So, okay, now let's move on to the metabolism piece. Many people don't consume enough protein or the right type of protein to maintain muscle mass. This becomes especially important if you're following the old low-calorie model for losing weight. As we lose weight, we will inevitably lose a little bit of muscle. That will happen regardless of the medication. That's a given. But we want to preserve as much muscle as possible because muscle mass is literally our metabolic rate. It is the foundation of what creates a speedy metabolism. This is exactly why men burn more energy than women. They have more muscle and they've also got more testosterone to fuel a higher metabolism. So that's why, ladies, your husband can eat twice as much and still never gain weight. I know it's frustrating. In order to maintain your muscle mass, you need 2 things, protein and weight-bearing exercise. The most important type of protein is animal protein because it has all of the amino acids we need. Amino acids are the building blocks which build muscle and everything else in our body, by the way. We need protein for everything, like think enzymes, neurotransmitters, hormones, healthy skin. Everything in our body depends on good quality protein. And here's the thing, we don't store protein. All the protein in our body is being used. It's not like fat because we store fat, we know that. And it's not like carbohydrate. We store that in the form of glycogen in our liver and our muscles for quick energy, right? But we don't actually store protein that is unused. So that's what makes it so important. In order to keep your muscle and therefore your metabolism, make sure that you're getting a couple of big palm-sized portions of animal proteins at least every day. Okay, so there you have it. Short but sweet and plenty for you to focus on. You can go back and watch this again if you need to remind yourself of something. If you're interested in learning more about how to boost your metabolism and understand how you can make nutrition work for you, watch this video next and I will see you in there.
Smarternuthub Nutrition.